You're watching Morning at NTV.
Work for a cause and not applause. Live life to express and not impress. Make sure your presence is not only felt but missed when you are away. This is Morning at NTV. A very warm welcome to the best breakfast show in the town. My name is Mebo Kebirunji. Standing by, we have Simon Kasiate, Brian Mulondo, Isma Dakabachigongo, and Joel Senyonyi, delivering what we want to help you start your day well. But first, our question of the day. Which renowned physicist's brain was removed before his body was cremated? If you are among the first 5 people to answer that question correctly, you do walk away with a Morning at NTV mug with which you can enjoy your chai, uji, juice, whatever it is you prefer to have, or water with a bit of lemon in the morning. We shall continue Morning at NTV by taking a look at the news. A day after a horrific accident involving 2 buses which claimed 7 lives and injured 19 people, police have reintroduced checkpoints on all major highways. Also, new guidelines have been put in place to help regulate road use and avert bus accidents.
The accident involving 2 buses, one belonging to Gaga and the other KK travelers, has woken up the police to reality that drivers continue to abuse road rules and regulations. The accident claimed 7 lives and left 19 injured. As of last night, police had revived checkpoints on the main highways.
With immediate effect, we are reintroducing bus checkpoints. Check drivers who make return journeys when they are not supposed to do it.
The points have been staged at Luwero, Matuga and Nsanji. The Police Traffic Commissioner, Dr. Stephen Kasima, says the others will be in Mbarara, Masaka, Kafu and Iganga. A number of guidelines have been put in place to ensure the eligibility of bus drivers.
Drivers change buses, but under this law, when the badges start, they will not be able to change. Changing from one bus company to another will be a process.
So we have no objection about it. We only need and request the police and the Ministry of Works and Transport to work with us.
Police have been strict on the first day, and some drivers received receipts to pay fines. Thorough checks are done inside the bus to, among other things, ensure that there are no excess passengers. However, the traffic police say have been laid down by other stakeholders in as far as public sensitization on road safety is concerned. Since 2005, there have been 5 major bus accidents which claimed more than 100 lives. They are the February 2005 Nyakarindi accident, which took 30 to their graves. On 21st January 2007, 8 people perished at Pakwachi Nebi Road. In the same month, 33 people, including 6 foreigners, died in 3 separate accidents along Pakwachi Nebi, Iganga Jinja, and Bujiri Busia highways. In October 2008, another 27 died at Lugazi. And on 8th September 2012, 14 people perished at Malongo in Lwengo district. Recently, traffic officers had started escorting buses to their destinations, but this stopped as suddenly as it started. Today, the question is, will the police keep the fire burning, or the operations will be soon forgotten? Solomon Kawesa, NTV.
Members of Parliament are threatening to censure John Babagambi, the State Minister for Works, for exposing taxpayers to loss of billions of shillings in court awards. The minister is accused of illegally terminating the 2012 Memorandum of Understanding with a Chinese company to build a railway line in eastern Uganda, linking Kampala to Kenya. Lawmakers tabled documents showing that the minister acted despite warnings from the Justice Ministry, the Attorney General, and Solicitor General. But Minister Byabagambi denies any wrongdoing, saying he never cancelled any contract and acted in the best interest of Ugandans.
Minister of Works and Transport Abraham Byandala, State Minister for Works John Byabagambi and other senior ministry officials appeared before the Parliamentary Committee of Physical Infrastructure to present the ministerial policy statement for 2014-2015 financial year. But the committee soon got consumed with the controversial railways construction contract. Junior Minister Byabagambi has been in the eye of the storm for allegedly cancelling a memorandum of understanding with a Chinese firm to build a new railway line in eastern Uganda. A committee member tabled documents showing that the minister illegally cancelled the deal awarded to China's Civil Engineering Construction Corporation, but the High Court later overturned his decision. The MPs warned that the decision could see taxpayers losing billions of shillings in court awards.
And the cost of compensation of these feasibility studies, in case the contract is cancelled, will cost Ugandan taxpayers 160 billion shillings.
But how many roads are those? How much money, Honourable Minister will tell me, how much money does my Katafi road need?
All the documents that Honourable Otto has presented, I don't deny them. And they will be part of the documents I will submit.
The lawmakers claimed that Byabagambi was hell-bent on awarding the contract to another company, China Harbour Engineering Corporation, despite warnings from the Attorney General and the Solicitor General to the contrary.
The executive, you have been accused of being corrupt, you have been accused of that, there have been evidences, and you have got to tell us, are you here to exploit the poor, or are you here to serve the poor?
Mr. Chairman, this is so serious.
But the minister stood his ground, saying he did no wrong and that he has documents to prove that he did not violate any proceedings and never cancelled any contract.
So it is not out of the blue moon, a small minister like John Byabagambi, that I'm defying the Attorney General. Honourable Otto, I would rather rot in jail than committing suicide.
Some legislators are now pushing for Minister Byabagambi's censure if he doesn't present documents exonerating himself by Thursday.
I am here not by accident, but I'm keenly looking at the events. Now we are moving on these specific matters.
And I promise this to the people of Uganda that I will not commit suicide. I will not commit this country to any theft or what.
Sources say powerful lobbyists, some in government, could be behind it. The tough war between the two Chinese companies. China Civil Engineering Construction Corporation says it spent time and money doing feasibility studies on the eastern route. More research all NTV at Parliament.
President Yoweri Museveni has launched the circumcision season in the eastern district of Mbale, cautioning the Bagisu not to abandon the myth that circumcised men do not contract HIV/AIDS. Museveni also pledged to allocate land to develop the cultural village of Mutoto and compensate the people occupying Bugisu Cooperative Union land.
President Yoweri Museveni arrived at Mutoto Cultural Village, accompanied by the Bamasaba cultural leader Wilson Wamimbi and political leaders from both Uganda and Kenya. The festival takes place every even year, and circumcision candidates from all the 5 districts of Masaba land that include Bududa, Manafa, Mbale, Sironko and Bulambuli were at hand. The 3 Masaba families of Mubuya, Wanale and Mwambu also performed an array of cultural dances before the president officially launched the circumcision season. With 5 candidates from Mutoto Cultural Village braving the knife to kickstart the Imbalu period. A ceremony attracted more than 400,000 people from all the 5 districts to Mutoto Village. It is believed that the first man was circumcised here thousands of years ago. Museveni cautioned the crowd to guard against HIV/AIDS. He applauded the elders in Masaba land for training their children to be brave for circumcision, but warned them to abandon the belief that circumcised men do not contract HIV/AIDS.
Because I'm sure you know many Bagisu have died from AIDS. and Muslims who have died from AIDS. If you don't go into indisciplined sex, you will not get AIDS.
He said that although he's a strong supporter of culture, politicians and cultural leaders in Bugisu should put more focus on job creation for the youth.
A strong culture based on modernization and wealth creation.
We are going to support you Paka last, and we are going to do that by drumming support throughout Masabaland.
After the launch, the crowd erupted into the vigorous Gishu dance, widely known as Kadodi. Udadil West MP and chairman of Bugisu Cooperative Union joined in yielding to the heartbeat of the Bamasaba. This official launch now gives a go-ahead to Gishu communities to circumcise at will. Agnes Nandutu, NTV, Mutato, Mbale District.
And you can see Agnes there having a wonderful time in Mutoto, Mbale district. Well, the Commissioner General of the Uganda prison says he will investigate reports that prisoners are being forced to pay bribes for sleeping space as numbers continue to swell at Luzira prison. He was speaking at the graduation of inmates currently serving long-term sentences up to life. They obtained diplomas in common law from the University of London through a long-distance study program.
It was a colorful day at Luzira Upper Prison for inmates Benjamin Kamugisha, Pasco Kakuru, Susan Chigula and former inmate Moses Ekwam, graduating after attaining a diploma in common law from the University of London. These inmates were all on death row when they sat for the A-level exams and later embarked on the long-distance study program.
Right now, we are able to give legal advice and guidance and counseling to our fellow inmates. And actually, I believe, I myself, that the legal clinic that I've started up down there, it is very helpful.
First of all, I've registered my fruits. When I was on death row, myself, I prepared my mitigating factors. I worked hand with my lawyer, and here I am. And I was able to get a manageable sentence from court.
Like ordinary students, they say they have been faced with a number of hurdles.
You know, when you go through the fire, then you learn means and skills of overcoming some challenges.
Today's graduation ceremony highlights that even in the high walls of a maximum detention facility, dreams can still be achieved. Now, today's graduates are even embarking on a longer journey to pursue a bachelor's degree in law, something that they have wished for.
Yeah, right now as I talk, I'm pursuing an LLB. Yeah, it's in the first year.
Chief Guest and Principal Judge Yorokam Bamwine said that the justice system is ready to welcome the fresh legal brains.
So I'm looking forward to a time when the graduates will now come to me and say they want to become judges and magistrates. Why not? They are human beings.
It is a milestone for the prison services, but the progress is overshadowed by reports that prisoners are paying bribes for sleeping space.
I have been told that if somebody is going to sleep, he has to pay. That you pay for space where you are going to sleep. And it is a matter which I'm going to tackle head on.
The Uganda Prison Service needs up to 30 billion shillings to decongest Luzira Prison. The detention facility, constructed in 1924, was designed to accommodate only 600 prisoners, but now it accommodates over 8,000. Suhail Mugabi, NTV.
very inspiring there. We now cross over to the gentleman on the other side of the Serena Hotel at the rooftop. To be precise, Simon, Joel and Brian are standing by, and we did talk about Museveni in Mbale, and I also happened to see that it was the front page story in the Daily Monitor. I'm just wondering, Simon, how is it possible? Museveni is saying that this Imbalu is going to boost tourism. Will people just come and visit for that purpose only?
Well, Mabel, good morning indeed. And indeed, like they say, you have no idea what tourists come to do in countries when they arrive there. I know people who visit countries just to enjoy a bath in a sea that is long dead. What about those who may wish to visit this part of the country to get a bit of their skins mutilated? Indeed, you're very right. But like the Lizard does say in the Daily Monitor this morning, perhaps they should turn Imbalu into a nationwide event. Now, that will certainly send chills down the spines of very many people, including the dangerous trio that's about to present to you the rest of the stories on the press review this morning. Good morning. We'll be right back. The 20th day of August 2014, and we're looking at the reality that we have 8 days to the census and about less than 5 months the next year. Coming to you live from the rooftop of the Kampala Serena Hotel. My name is Simon Kasiati. I'm joined by Joel and Brian. Good morning, folks.
Good morning.
This morning we're waking up to an interesting front page picture in the Daily Monitor of President Museveni being dressed up in, I think, goat skin. I thought this man was attending Imbalu, and when, I mean, clearly, like someone did post on the Facebook post yesterday, when he's launching a water project, he opens the tap. When he's launching the Kira EV, he test drives the car.
If it is a road, yes, same story with the roads.
Same story with the roads.
Drives a tractor.
The rubber hits the, he moves an earth mover and breaks the ground. So if you're launching a huge tourist attractive incidents like Imbalu, we would expect something more graphic. What could that be? We'll start with you, Brian.
You're supposed to get the knife
and cut somebody.
And just hold it.
Perhaps Joel is the more blunt one here.
You get the knife and cut one of the candidates.
But he's not
but I'm saying
qualified.
President Museveni is not a surgeon. He should be a surgery as opposed to being a surgeon.
Yeah, that
but
was
it is
also my...
that you can't do it I don't know how many times. Anyway.
That was my question, you know, like, did any one of them ask whether, you know,
well, he's not a Mogisu, so good for him. But I like the fact that, you know, he kept emphasizing that, look, if you circumcise yourselves and go around saying you're going to be free of HIV and AIDS, you will die, because we've been sending the wrong messages out there.
Perhaps also cutting him, we're being unfair to him. I mean, I've seen the people, I have attended a Dua, that does not make me as a very senior guest at the
The other day you guys were clad in, I don't know what, the Tarabusi on the Eid.
Absolutely. I have seen people come to officiate over baptism functions, that they make them Christians. So possibly him, as a very serious senior guest, he came to see for himself what it means to partake of the Imbalu tradition, which I'm told now he's going to facilitate in such a manner that it becomes a modernized and highly sophisticated operation. Perhaps soon we'll be having laser-directed knives where they will just, you know, slice you by what, Bluetooth or something?
Maybe the modernization would include taking away the culture where you're using, you know, the knife and alcohol and...
so how would you want it?
Really, yeah, it's really rudimentary.
I thought that's the whole thing. I mean, it's just like baptism. It's not baptism until you've been immersed in water.
Yeah, clean water it should be.
No. Where are you going to find clean water anyway? Even the River Jordan, I'm very sure, is now flowing with blood from Palestinians. So clearly,
there's this video on WhatsApp that keeps, you know, going around of how they pull now the kids, put them like on a wood, then the guy would just chop. Wow! And you're like, really? That's stupid.
And then they use remember it when they grow up.
Use a stick to separate.
Really?
It's painful.
Residents are going thirsty as a water crisis hits Kalangala. Now, Kalangala is an island. Situated in Africa's largest freshwater body. And there is a water crisis in Kalangala. Really, do I now begin to say government Eva Yambe? Do I want to say that?
But this is clean water, Simon.
Because of course you cannot fetch
the one in
directly
the lake
water,
is very dirty actually. So whatever purification it goes through before it gets to the borehole or the tap is what they don't have.
And some people are far away from where exactly the water point is, from the seashore, the lake shore, if you like.
You know, for me, when you hear of an island, you actually think that possibly while you're seated here, you're on the balance in your legs and not too sure if you step in water, you're possibly floating on the sand.
It's an island district.
And the Binazi seem to be, you know, still killing the waters. So.
Now we are looking at what's the Binazi for the benefit of those who don't understand your local language.
What is Binazi?
Palm oil plants.
Oil.
Or oil palm, whatever they call it. You know, there is the syntax does matter. Palm oil is when there's palm oil and then there's oil palm. One is the plant, one is the byproduct. So one of those, at least one comes from the other.
Palm oil. Oil must be the
oil
product.
Palm. Cooking oil.
Yeah.
Then we also told that 30 are to get free brain surgeries. We are seeing a neurosurgical camp at Mulago Hospital that's conducted by the association. We conducted by an association with a team from the Duke University Hospital in the USA. And the, of course, question is, why only 30? I want to believe that if this team pitched camp at the Chogam grounds just next to Parliament, they would have more people to carry on their brain surgeries. And for the right reason.
And talking about those good friends, Speaker Kadaga defends legislators' foreign trips. Let me quote her here. When you have complicated legislators, they, MPs, visit countries with similar legislators. MPs do not have houses in these countries, so they must be given per diem for accommodation because they have to sleep. Is that a sigh of relief? What exactly is that? You're yawning. Okay.
Well, they rated the top travelers in the parliament, and it was very interesting to see that our good friend Cassiano Adri tops the list.
I have told
you. Is it because he's park chairman? But you see, at the end of the day, you want to see...
On matters of that group of people, you will allow me, honestly, I will fall off my seat in a yawn. I am just bored to the marrow.
Well, in the Observer this morning, Biandala accuses Nasasira and Tumwebaze. And Nasasira says, I don't know anybody in Utah. Was it called Utah or a Utah?
The way you pronounce it.
Kind of Utah. I have never visited the United States to meet any of their officials. He should take responsibility for his actions and not blame others.
And I see the president is being dragged into this as well. But Biandala is not the only one having his head on the chopping block. His junior minister, he has MPs start probing this stalled railway deal. Legislators open investigations into, as you know, Biava Gambi cancelled that that contract. He says, no, we didn't have a contract. It's some kind of makeshift thing, if you like. But there you have it. Now, FDC is doing something that is, they are asking government to reduce payee tax to 5%. Currently, it's at about 30%. And they say, look, want that 5% because, you know, our people earn little and so on.
Oh,
I think
so
it's a
finally, the people of FDC are actually earning something. Because you see, for the most part, just after we came out of the last election, we were inundated by this whole thing of joblessness, and then people were walking to work. And of course, 90% of those who were ostensibly walking to work did not have jobs they were walking to. And the million-dollar question was, there was not enough, or there was no employment whatsoever. That is what we're talking about in this country. And even the little that there is in form of employment, FDC wants government to reduce it to 5%. I'll tell you, I'm one of those who has grappled for over 15 years with this pay as you earn, high as it may be. But thank you, FDC. No, I don't agree with you that it must be reduced 5%.
That's why, really.
I think there, it's a no-brainer. You try other things. I mean, I think... FDC,
give us more sustainable solutions.
No, I think FDC was a better political organization when it was running around this city and there was tear gas. I mean, maybe there was some oomph to them. We knew that they were a militant wing that was just geared at one objective, remove President Museveni and run down this country.
But perhaps to cut them some slack, you know, it is the one John Chikonyogo who is saying that. That might not exactly be concomitant with the
but
rest of
he is
everybody.
the FDC spokesperson. And the fact that FDC can get spokespeople who you will indeed just say a one John Chikonyogo, one who you, like they say, what do you expect of a pig but a grant? I mean, one who you, when he says something like this, you say, well, it is John Chikonyogo.
It is the whole party, yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, if they cannot get a spokesperson that is worth the aura and intellect of being able to say something, and also want to believe that, I mean, I'm a spokesperson of an organization. Whatever I open my mouth to spew in line with what the organization thinks and operates is taken as the position of the organization. So, unless I put a disclaimer. So, unless Chikonyogo comes forward and says these were his personal idol views and not the views of FDC, shall we cut them some slack? But as for Democratic, if they think they're going to be a government in waiting, And this is the kind of characters they're putting in positions of responsibility, spokespersonship, and these are the kind of views that they are spewing out there. I can tell you, I mean,
and you see, that's
it's not
the
even
problem.
a question of better the devil that you know.
Our political parties are too desperate to get the next seat or the next election. So whatever views, you know, he can go and sell it to villages and people will believe him.
No,
but you see, these are the views they front. And so you, the elite who are paid the salary, who have been paying for 15 years, know that 30%, if it was possible, it can even be increased.
Look, 30% is actually high.
It's a lot of money.
It is.
You look at your gross pay. You look at your gross pay, you look at your net pay, you look at what has been deducted in form of taxes, and you really feel sad. More so looking at the fact that much of what goes out of your salary as taxes, ostensibly to provide you the minimum social services, are not there. Fair enough, but you as a citizen, it's only incumbent upon you to ensure that you participate in the most cardinal role a citizen does, and that is paying tax. The state, whatever the state does to your taxes should now be an issue of clamor and contestation, but you should never reduce it to the point of FDC saying we should pay.
Not 5%, not 5%. I think it should be reduced. It is stupendous figure, but you know, ultimately, we might not even mind so much how much you pay in form of taxes, but like Simon says, services, at the end of the day, the amenities are not there for the everyday man. So you're thinking, why pay taxes? I'll be very honest with you. If we were to pay taxes voluntarily, even bishops would find it very convoluted a thing to do.
Even in those countries of yours which you love to grandize on this very show and in your private lives, in the UK, in the US, those countries where you believe it is heaven on earth and people don't die, they only just disappear, those people there would never pay taxes voluntarily if you ask them. And that's why you have huge corporations evading taxes. You've had all these stories. That's why you get them opening offshore, branches and things like what you're seeing with the Katosi Mukono Road. I mean, this is all geared at being sharp enough for tax evasion. But bottom line is, fair enough, services may not be being provided. Let us contest that and ensure that services are provided. But do not, we're already cash-strapped as a country. Much of this money that we get goes into feed, is good for nothing. Anyway. Let me stop my rants.
So the money is available. The issue is not really that we are cash-strapped. It's because there's siphoning, there's all these people who are there to aggrandize themselves, and what do you expect? But one of the things government can do with this, our money, is what former Finance Minister Suruma is telling them. Focus on creating more jobs. This was at the workshop he was attending.
Well, we have an entire page 9 of the Daily Monitor attributed to the census exercise that is coming in the next 8 days. We see an endorsement coming in from Buganda, where we see a picture of the Katikkiro where Charles Peter Mayiga saying Buganda will benefit from the national census. And we've got a half-page advert of the Archbishop of the Church of Uganda saying clearly and endorsing the census and saying count for what counts. And yesterday, of course, you remember reading a story from, reading remarks coming in from Mr. Mungereza, the head of the Uganda Bureau of Statistics, saying the census is in fact a divine activity. God calls on us to be counted.
To be counted.
But what's exegetical about a census? Let's not, I don't know, like you like to say, bastardize this thing. It is a good thing, but for you to try and manipulate people, you see, if you don't go and get counted, thunder is going to strike you from heaven.
Because Ugandans, you need literally every reason to do even the most, obvious thing.
Tell them the facts. It's good for
so
you. You need to
the
be
man
counted.
has told
Services
you
will come
we need
your
to,
way.
yes, but you still refuse even those reasons. So let him use God.
Divine what?
Even me, I would use God to convince you.
I'm surprised that the FDC, which is asking for 5% pay as you earn, has not come in to castigate and pour cold water on the census. I mean, clearly we know how they operate.
Hope they come out to
census is good, says the government. No, census is bad. FDC says.
Maybe the ED can get one of, get Besigye to carry one of these placards and take a photo, because it's like the national ID, right? It's non-partisan. Why are you doing that?
It's difficult. I mean, these guys are not easy to get. Anyway, the editorial of the Daily Monitor this morning is, of course, harping on to that story that they did report a couple of days ago where President Museveni was quoted as saying that art subjects are useless for the most part. And the editorial in the Daily Monitor is saying, do not bash humanities. Just think about it. And this morning on Newsday on the BBC, there was an interesting intercourse between our good friend Alan Kasuja and Professor Baria Mureba, precisely throwing some more light onto this issue. And Professor Vanessius had an important point to say. He said that President Museveni had a point, yes, and did not have a point, no. he had a point to the extent that, yes, there are few scientists in this country, and of course there is need for innovation and things like that, but he was wrong to imagine that humanities on the most part are useless for the country, because you cannot run a country with only scientists without journalists like ourselves, without lawyers, without without all the other amenities, social scientists, psychologists, and the like. So, and even political scientists like President Museveni. So, I think this is the debate that is going on.
Quintessentially.
No, what is not. We who studied social sciences, and then we majored in political science. You cannot divorce us from being scientists.
It was a Bachelor of Science, a Bachelor of Arts.
A Bachelor of Arts in Social Science.
It was a skills.
Maybe it's one of those useless courses.
One of those?
Bachelor of Arts in Social Science.
In the regional news coming in this morning, the Honorable Minister for Lands, Daudi Migereko, is saying that greedy people are grabbing church land. Honorable Migereko, of course, it has to be greedy people that grab anything. Otherwise, if they were not greedy, they wouldn't be grabbing anything.
Just like the people who steal offertory.
I mean, and those are greedy
from
people.
Elsewhere, but now from the Lord's basket. Quote of the day, this is by Police Chief Kale Kayihura on God's basket.
I want to see the point at which the nexus between that basket and the coffers in heaven. But how that money is wired.
Well,
is it RTGS? Is it EFT? Is it Bluetooth?
It's definitely not by
check. Or is it Wi-Fi?
Well, if you go to some good churches that account for your money, it goes to do God's work, and essentially that
by buying the church leaders these fuel guzzling things.
No, that is wrong.
And they,
I know
which church do you attend?
I attend my good church.
Is that what happened?
Our
you
Lady
have Gazlas?
Our Lady of
Africa.
My parish priest, Father John Mungereza, drives a little. I doubt that thing can climb Mbuya Hill without the
So what does that say about the people who attend? You people are mean.
No. It is about the modesty of the ministry. I mean,
is it?
Yes.
Are you sure?
We accommodate that priest, Father John. I'm sure he's watching this show. We accommodate him. We feed him. We clothe him for the most part, and he does God's work in the best way. We do not have to
But you give tithe and offering, yeah?
Listen, and that tithe and offering is not to take Father John Mungereza to the Bahamas to go and rest in summer. It's not to buy him a V8 fuel guzzling engine. It's not to make him build a palatial home by the shores of Lake Victoria. It is purely to
but
do
he's entitled to
that. So now you get the point.
But guess
so
what?
just that some misuse it, but otherwise...
He baptizes, he anoints the sick, he weddings couples.
So to be a priest, am I called to be poor? No, your tithe must help me achieve that.
Molondo, you were earlier on disputing
to wipe out corruption, Justice Ban Uganda, says Honorable Semuju Ibrahim.
The tenets of priesthood in the Catholic Church are on piety, chastity, and total celibacy. Now, when you know what chastity means you're supposed to be at the most humble. And being humble means you must be the poorest of the poor. You must be the servant of Allah.
Are you sure?
Yes.
No.
Just like our Lord lived. I mean, you know that he never changed much of his clothes. And when he,
but they didn't wear out.
And when he had, he only did this for 3 years, but they were hard 3 years. And when he had the means of mobility, it was a young ass. Well, Mabel, a lot of things are happening on the international scene. We know that the ceasefire in Gaza and Israel did come to a very debilitating end. Yesterday, rockets were fired into Israel, and of course, you know what Israel did? They retaliated. A lot more is happening. We're also seeing very disturbing pictures on social media that were sent by an Islamic group depicting the beheading of an American journalist. We also know that demonstrations, peaceful as they may be, are still going on in Ferguson, Missouri. What else do we have training on the international scene, Mabel?
Thank you very much, Simon. I'm still hung up on the mode of transport you mentioned earlier. Very interesting the way you put it. But starting off with the Sky News page, breaking news actually, IS, the Islamic State, has apparently beheaded a US journalist and posted the video. James Foley is said to have been killed by the IS militants, and the person on the video speaks English with an English accent. They also say they are holding another American. And why are they doing this? Because yesterday, as we saw, the Americans have said they are going into Iraq, and they said they are not going to let go. They'll continue hurting American interests. Now, still on the Sky News page, British Kurds are ready to join the fight against IS. Images of this brutality has fueled anger among the country's Kurdish community. They do have a significant number of Kurds who are keen to join the struggle against these militants in Iraq. Now, also on the Sky News, Tom Hanks has an app, a free app on a free app which he has launched. It's a typewriter, iPad app. It's called Hank's Writer. Now, it just basically, it looks like this keyboard here. It's he says he loves keyboard typewriters so much, so he decided to create this app that has actually shot to the top of Apple's iTunes stores. Basically, it emulates the old-fashioned typewriter where if you want to go to the next line, it actually makes a click sound, but you also have the option of deleting, which is something typewriters were not able to do. On to the CNN page, again, this is the big story, breaking news here. ISIS beheads American. A second journalist is threatened. Read more about who James Foley is, the one who was actually killed. And his family actually 2 weeks ago had started a campaign to have him released. Some sad news here. The Pope, 3 members of the Pope's extended family died in an Argentina car crash. His nephew was actually driving, and his nephew lost 2 sons and a wife in that crash. Really sad there. The nephew is actually in critical condition. He may actually travel back for the burial. Now, as Simon did say, protests have continued in Ferguson, Missouri, but the streets remain calm. Lots of, some people have been arrested, though not too many people on the streets as we have been seeing in the last couple of weeks, actually last 10 days since Michael Brown was shot by a white policeman in this small town in Missouri. The Attorney General in the United States is expected in Missouri later today. Now, on to the BBC page, Ebola crisis. Liberia orders a curfew and quarantine. This nighttime curfew is in a bid to halt the deadly Ebola outbreak. President Johnson Sirleaf said the curfew would be from 9 p.m. to 6 in the morning. And she hopes all movement will be blocked and that this will help in halting the spread of the disease. Also on the BBC page, we have Boko Haram crisis. Nigerian soldiers mutiny over weapons. They say they're not going to take part in the fight against Boko Haram because they don't feel they're well equipped in this struggle. They believe the rebels have more equipment, sophisticated arms and ammunition, and they don't want to put their lives in danger. I guess a bit of a headache there for the Nigerian government. And we also have the Gaza truce, which ends yesterday. We saw the Palestinians actually walking out of the talks in Cairo. The truce between Israel and Palestinian militants in Gaza has ended amid fresh airstrikes, which Israel say it was using to counter rocket fire from the Palestinian side. Now that's all we had for you. Morning at NTV will continue after this break.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji and Brian Mulundo.
Hello, is this Munji?
Yo, this is Munji.
I am feeling your new Virgin Jam right now. It is off the hook.
Thanks, man. I'm also feeling you. Seducer.
Make a call for whatever reason. Call someone, call anyone, and change your life. Make a call and you can win 100 million shillings, a car, or a smartphone with free data for a year. Plus, win 2 free minutes every day. Airtel. Together we can.
Hey there, Mr. Krabs. Are you ready to party?
I like to move it. I like to move it. I like to move it. You like to move it.
Wow. Hello, fellow motor enthusiastics.
Oh, Mr. Krabs, isn't there any way for us to return all of them back to normal?
Hey, how'd he do that?
The Red Ranger's a bigger problem than I thought.
It's time to finish this thing up.
What can I do to make them love me again?
What are you drawing, Kitty?
Mega Rangers? Yeah. That's a mega win.
Hello? King Julian, you are truly inspiring. Ow!
SpongeBob! Fantastic.
Coming soon on NTV.
Hey! Somebody stop that guy! He took my purse!
bloody Indians.
Sorry, ma'am.
I am sure there are thieves in your country too, but we Indians never abuse.
So Mani auntie wants to have her eldest son married to our Sandhya.
Why do I look at this photograph right now when I know I don't want to get married? I want to become a police officer.
Coming soon on NTV.
You can bring everybody in parliament as long as they can wake up and vote for the NRM.
As long as the voters exercise their rights to elect their leaders, there was no need for term limits in Uganda.
I know him. I know how he operates. I know how he thinks.
There are ways you can go around these obstacles.
Why should I conduct myself as if I am a Muyai?
It's absolutely true. I admired President Museveni.
Is the ICC a fascistic code targeting African leaders?
You cannot tell me that the whole trouble Kenya had revolved about only two individuals.
The money is not in the budget of this financial year.
You can't beat God. You see, God is polygamous also. Look at Jeremiah chapter 31.
The security of this country will largely depend on the contribution that the people make.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji and Brian Mulundo.
Welcome back. Indeed, you're still watching Morning at NTV. Now, we will cross over to Simon for today's big story, but remember, you can be part of it by posting your comments on our Facebook page, which is Morning at NTV. Remember to like our page first. Simon, good morning once again.
Good morning, Mabel. It's the 20th day of August 2014, and we're this morning in the big story discussing something very close to my heart, the art of spin. And of course, I'm also lucky to have a guy who is my namesake wannabe. His name is Simon, but with a small s. And sadly, even his second name starts with a K. But well, that and much more is what we'll be looking at in the big story, the art of spin. I hope I've spun his image in a better way for you now to get the grips of what will be coming up shortly after this bumper. Public relations is the strategic communication process that builds mutually beneficial relations between organizations and their publics. Now, that is the quintessential textbook description of public relations. Now, many of you are always in the right mood to pour cold water on people who practice this art and call them spin doctors and call them good-for-nothing image cleansers. Some even have called us laundries of images. This morning we are looking at the art of spin, but looking at it from a perspective that the government of Uganda has not taken this very serious facet of business development lying down. Indeed, like any other person involved in anything that involves the image, government of Uganda, and very specifically State House, has hired the services of Mercury Public Relations LLC, an American public relations consultancy firm, which is supposed to transform the image of President Yoweri Museveni and promote Uganda's global trade interests. To discuss this interesting subject, the art of spin, I have with me Mr. Simon Kaheru, a media analyst, pioneer of SMS communication in this country for the most part, and of course a guy that is always busy with his fingers.
And a journalist, you should say.
That was coming. I was saving the best for last. Good morning, Simon.
Good morning, Simon.
With a small s, yeah?
That you say. That's your spin on things.
Simon, let's start from the art of spin perspective. Many Ugandans don't seem to appreciate that, in fact, like the Bible does say, when you light your candle, you don't put it under the table, you put it out on the pedestal and let your light shine.
Yes.
To what extent you as a journalist, as a PR practitioner, as a media analyst, do you see the appreciation of the need for spin in every facet of life,
First of all,
be it political or economic?
Simon, let's not call it spin. Let's call it public relations, building public relations, reputation management. The term spin is associated with the old methods of practicing public relations. Yes, getting the truth and spinning it round, or getting lies and spinning them round, and it doesn't feel good. And that's really why many people do not like public relations practitioners. They think that we are liars. or you guys, alliance. If you look at public relations management as reputation building, reputation management, then it's better appreciated. People actually get to realize that in their day-to-day lives, they actually engage in continuous public relations management.
Why should reputations be built and managed and spruced if one's works are big enough to speak for themselves?
No, much like anything else in the world is built and maintained. You know, you don't sit back and just let a tree grow in any manner you wish if you're an agriculturist. You're going to tend to that tree. You're going to look after the seedling. You're going to water it as it grows. You're going to give it the nutrients it needs. You're going to keep pruning it. It's the same with the reputation. And reputation is the most important element of any organization or even individual for that matter. You wouldn't be able to do what you're doing now if you did not have the reputation that you've built over the last so many years.
Let's look at President Museveni very specifically. He's been president for now close to 3 decades. He has ruled this country, some would say tremendously well, others would say perhaps not up to the mark. What reputation does he need to build now that we already do not know?
He certainly needs to, one, maintain his good reputation and then fix the bad sides that people are complaining about. The bad sides that people find. In terms of reputation
or fixing it in doing what he should have done that makes him...
I don't know about doing what he should have done. If you haven't done something, you haven't done it. But maybe start doing certain things differently so that your reputation or his reputation, since it's the one you're talking about, is viewed positively. But then also, start getting some of the things that are misunderstood better explained. Start getting visibility in places that there was no visibility before. This particular contract that's being talked about in the media now, I have not read, and I do not have the full details around it. But
you have a sharp way of averting my questions.
Well, unfortunately, I haven't. But it makes sense. Any and every government in the world should have public relations managers, should have public relations firms, public relations professionals helping with their reputations. Of course, I'm unhappy that it's Mercury Public Affairs instead of media analysts, but
absolutely,
maybe in a few years' time, media analysts will be the one doing this.
And why, if I may ask, what do you think is the biggest reputational challenge or image challenge that is facing President Museveni and all State House for that matter, or Uganda, that require the services of such a company with this kind of profile?
Well, like I said, I've not read the contract, so I don't know what the exact services would be, but I would expect at all times for a country like Uganda to definitely have public relations representation in all the major countries outside of Uganda. Why? For the simple reason that we need to do trade with these countries. For the simple reason that we need tourists to come from these countries. For the simple reason that we need anything that may be blown out of proportion from here to be managed over there, so that it does not limit the positive chances that we have coming from there. Look at the US right now. The US is right now in the spotlight because of these riots in Ferguson, Missouri. Now, tomorrow, if you were invited to go to Missouri for a conference, would you go?
Simon, you know what?
Depending on how desperate you are, you can reserve your answer.
For the most part, many of our viewers
but you can imagine.
I mean, even if you invited them to Iraq, they would still go. Especially if they're under the auspices of the US government.
That's pitiful, because it's much more peaceful here, and you can actually make a lot more money here than you would in Iraq, depending on what you're doing.
Spin now. What, Simon?
That's one way of putting it.
Yeah, but let's also look at, indeed, like you said earlier on, it's unfortunate, or you say, you know, you'd have preferred it where media analysts or Simon Kaheru that had this contract and not this particular company. Let's look at the growth of this industry in Uganda. Practitioners like ourselves and many others before and those yet to come. To what extent would you rate us with regard to being able to be up to the task of indeed sprucing the image of our own governments, our own brands here, and of course making reputations work on a global perspective?
Simon, we are capable of doing a very good job. We have a challenge here as an industry, as a public relations industry or sector, as you call it. We have not yet convinced enough Ugandans to take on our services. At Medianis, for instance, one of our focus point now is SMEs. We're trying to get as many SMEs as possible to appreciate the importance of public relations management, reputation building, to get them to understand how good PR directly affects the bottom line. Brings in hard money. It is, but somebody's got to do it.
What exactly are you telling them that's that magic bullet that they will listen to?
One of the things that we do, very, very simply, is we walk in and run projects that make a direct difference to their operations. And that makes them look up and realize that, you know what, if we took this more seriously, maybe we'd get a lot more.
Let's give an example, Simon.
No, I'm not going to give you an example because I don't like talking about my clients directly on TV.
No, we're not talking about your clients, we're just giving about, you know, service. You know, what kind of service would you offer? So Simon have a little...
For instance, right now, I think I'm going to finish convincing a certain client, a new client, to go and speak with certain officials within the government and in Parliament about a tax issue that they have. This client is suffering. Their revenues are going to be hit because of a new tax that has been introduced, and they're doing nothing about it. And what we're explaining to them is that if they go, explain their situation and the likelihood of their business prospects dropping because of this tax, it might be viewed favorably, and there'll be a change to maybe the tax policy or even the tax regimen itself. Even if there's no change to that tax regimen now, next year they will be invited to the table to discuss the new taxes that might be coming
What
in.
I read from you, Simon, is that public relations is much more than the usual art that we're used to, that if Simon is my client, I have to ensure that he's on TV all the time, he's being talked about in the newspapers, and of course, wherever he goes, he can be recognized and said, that is Simon Kaheru, thanks to Simon Kasiate's
and that is the unfortunate thing about public relations in Uganda. In Uganda, for all these years, people have believed that public relations is the art of getting one's photograph into the newspaper. Or the art of
many
getting
of us
one's
are
name
castigated
mentioned in the paper.
for not doing enough on our job simply because they don't read the brands we represent.
And that goes back to the lack of understanding, especially on the part of people who are decision makers in organizations and companies, a lack of understanding of what public relations is really about. They think it's publicity. They think it's media coverage. That's only a small slither, very, very small. And they also don't realize that the media that we're talking about, yes, not only behind the scenes lobbying, it's even in what you actually do. If the government of Uganda goes and spends, how much is it? $600,000 on a public relations firm in the US, and then over here we unleash a new silly policy, throwing all the Americans out of Uganda, that $600,000 is a waste of money. What you do matters much more than the person you've had or the things that you're saying.
Because time is not an ally on our side, Simon, let's look at why, let's try to ponder as to why President Museveni has come up with this public relations one, to spruce his image 2 years to the next election, which would possibly be his, what, 5th election? And he's going into, you know, the realms where now the world will start looking at him as a very old leader who's perhaps past his sell-by date.
Yeah, that's what you're saying. But then, think about it this way. One, we don't know whether it's President Museveni who's gone and asked for this together and said, we have noticed that the farms too.
Very sure. I assume that did President Museveni.
But if I've got a news story in the paper, how much would this have cost me? In many cases, though my clients should PR management, PR is not reputation. Reputation is in 2000.
Thank you very much, and I'm sure I wouldn't add or subtract much from what the Simon with the small s did share with us this morning, and so for much of Simon says this morning will be the Simon of the small s that said much of it.
S stands for ego.
Well, there you have him again interrupting the Simon says. Well, he presents a very important aspect that I think many of us tend to lose in our appreciation of what public relations is, and the fact that reputation is indeed a continuous and ever-changing perspective to your life, to your operations, to what exactly you are as an individual, a business, or even a country for that matter. And that is something that we should carry home as a very strong message, that those who invest highly in sprucing their reputations, sprucing one's reputation also challenges you to live up to that reputation. It's one thing to hire a firm to talk about you as a great something, and yet your actions do not seem to represent what you are portrayed to be. So you have a reputation sprucing, and that challenges you to work towards that, to ensure that you actually live up to the billing. That's what I've always told you every morning, that you must be very productive so that you are known as a productive set of people, a citizenry that is productive, that expects to get the best for their country, and in turn their country to give them the very best. But the moment you do not realize that you should be known and appreciated as a productive lot, then that's the moment when you begin to lose out, and possibly you need some kind of public relations for you to understand that your reputation does matter for the growth, personal growth, and of course the collective sum of the growth that will propel this country from point A to point B. Have a productive good morning. We'll be right back, same time, same place tomorrow, to discuss yet a more insightful look into yet another topic.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Molondo.
We transact every day, and for centuries, currencies have changed hands. Business is a must, and that is why Money Matters makes it a must to talk business.
It's the biggest market out in Uganda because of East African connections and business.
From farming to business trading, we give you all the angles.
When you're harvesting, that one is the most important part.
which will have to be there.
We'll bring you all the details that doing business has to offer.
Thoughts of the business leaders in the market.
The airline industry doesn't operate like any other industry, where you go in and buy a shirt and this shirt is 20 shillings today, it will be 20 shillings tomorrow, 20 shillings.
The analysis of the costs and the income in the industries.
From wherever we are, we talk business, and at Money Matters,
where money indeed matters.
Business is a must.
So, don't miss talking business with us every Thursday only on NTV.
Follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat.
Follow the beat.
Follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat. Follow the beat. Follow the beat, follow the beat.
Follow the beat.
Follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat. Follow the beat.
Obonyumirwa ebyemizannyo jangu nkulage.
Does! And Adam Johnson, the boyhood Newcastle United man, historic, flying in the face of all football logic. A magnificent goal by Robin van Persie. Ferdinand! Everton lead at Old Trafford. Walcott, Giroud. Suarez. Super Suarez. And backs it up. And cracks it in. Checo finds the net. It's spectacular style. Robert penalty for Borussia Dortmund. And he scores. Beautifully from
Stand up to be counted. Brought to you by UBOS. It's your right.
Census is here. Be counted. The information you give is confidential and is only used for planning, policy making, and equitable resource allocation. This leads to improved service delivery to you and your community. So, get ready to be counted, starting from 28th August to 6th September 2014. Together we count.
Stand up to be counted. Brought to you by UBOS. It's your right.
On the next episode, brought to you by
At Orange, we know you want to do more on the internet. That's why we bring you happy hour day and night.
On the next episode of
Destiny River.
And you're so caring now just because he's a human being? Or is it because he's Manuela's father?
It's not your fault at all.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. He got sick after he argued with me and Fred.
But what's it about? Something serious?
If you consider tampering with an airplane serious, then we're dealing with something very serious,
Chief,
yes.
Solano has nothing to do with that.
That's what you say.
Destiny River.
You can download movies at the lowest prices and never fast from Orange. Dial *133# to buy a data bundle. Happy hour changes with Orange. Today changes with Orange.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Molondo.
Welcome back. Earlier, Simon Kasiate did host Simon Kaheru as though talking about the art of spin doctoring, should I say, or as Simon put it, Simon Kaheru, it is actually not being a spin doctor, it's actually PR, public relations. To some of your comments now on Facebook, we have Moses Jingo saying, our government is known for corruption. How will PR save that? And what about the unwillingness to leave power? How will PR solve that situation? We have Noah Asinje saying it is indeed true that reputation is a very important element to any organization and person, and he says that, but we have propagandists who always blackmail it in public, so there's always need for a skilled person to clear the air. We have, Simon did say earlier that any government in the world does need to have PR managers. And we have Luganda Thomas saying the problem is how well the whole project will be managed. Let me think it's not another plan by the government to take our money. Noah Asinge says, but the Uganda government has misused its PR wing by hiring vocal people who are always in the media houses defending their wrongs and abusing its critics. And lots of messages there. Simon did earlier say that he wasn't too sure who asked for this PR firm, or whether it was the Uganda government or the Uganda Tourism Board. And we have Anthony saying, Thomas saying it must be an order from above. And remember, you can continue sending your comments in to our Facebook page, Morning at NTV. We have a picture here of Brian letting us know what he will be talking about as well on Everyday Life. We cross over to Brian at this moment. Good morning, Brian. Brian is...
Mabel, this morning is Healthy Wednesday, and we're going to look at something that has literally brought the world to a standstill. It has killed more than 1,145 people, and right now is about 890 patients. And that's just what World Health Organization knows and has been able to research. But there are lots of people, of course, reported looting in some health centers, especially in Liberia. We do not know who is out there. At NTV, centers have been set up, and news coming from Entebbe is that the Nigerian citizen who was suspected of being an Ebola patient is free. But are we safe? What is Ebola? Where does it come from? When did it start? And how can we make sure that we are safe? Coming up on Everyday Life. Joining us this morning is Dr. David Ndaula, who is the medical director at Family Clinic in Zambia. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
Good to see you again. Yes. You were here like what, 3 weeks ago? Yeah, 3-4 weeks? Yeah, almost a month. Yeah. And this morning we want to talk about Ebola, and I know it's now it's an outbreak now. You know, it has been declared. 2 patients have been quarantined in the US. There are trial drugs. First of all, before I even go on, is it okay to have a trial drug during an outbreak?
Well, you know, considering the scale of this particular outbreak, the WHO Ethics Committee has actually sanctioned it. This trial drug is called Zima, and it hadn't gone through human tests before, but they seem to have had some success with 2 of the people they tried. One person, unfortunately, maybe because of the stage of the disease, did pass away.
Was it too advanced?
It's possible.
Okay.
You know, in many illnesses, sometimes there's a point you get to when the body is just too weak to come back.
Okay.
But 2 cases have recovered, and so there seems to be a moral imperative for us to use it.
All right.
So they're going to try it.
Fantastic. We hear Ebola. We hear people just, how can 1,000 people die in such a short, you know, this thing feels like the moment you catch it, you write your will.
Well, the mortality is quite high. Cases first started being, they talked about a mysterious disease in December last year, And unfortunately, because they were totally unprepared for it, it took them about 116 days to eventually work out this was Ebola. It happened in a border town between Guinea and I believe Liberia it was. That's where it started, and the populations there were very mobile. So a health system that wasn't ready, coupled by a health system that's weak in many areas, very mobile populations, was just a recipe for disaster. And yes, as you said, over 1,000 people have died. The latest is that it has got to Nigeria now. Nigeria has a population, I believe, of about 700 million people. So it's a scary situation.
You know, of course I was confused when it got to Nigeria, because in Uganda we had, you know, gone through this, and I label us the experts of Ebola. Is there a time when, for example, it started? Has it been here for a long time, or it's now being recognized because it is affecting more than one country?
Well, you know, Ebola was first detected in 1976. Actually, the name Ebola is it's a river in the Congo. So that's where it got its name. But in 1976, there were two outbreaks, one in the Congo, one in Sudan. And at that point, they realized that, you know, this is a significant illness because its mortality then was about 90%. So 9 out of 10 people who got it died. This current epidemic, the mortality is about between 50 and 60%. So that's still significant. Half the people are dying.
Yes.
But it's essentially a zoonosis. Now, what a zoonosis is it means that it comes from an animal to human beings, and then after that, it starts to spread within human communities. Now, in West Africa, they're thought to eat a species of bat, a fruit bat. And so the current theory is that that's where it started. Communities went out, started eating fruit bats, and we know bats are migrant, they're moving from place to place, and so it is thought to have started there. But then after that, you will notice that most of the people getting it or dying are either communities in which these people have been found, and anyone who comes into contact with people who've died or dead bodies, anybody involved in washing is at risk. But then the other big group is medical workers. Infection control procedures in many of these hospitals and clinics in West Africa have been less than ideal. So medical workers...
So just simple gloves, and they're not useless. They are not useful. Right.
You don't know yet.
Yeah.
That's a recipe for it to start to spread. So came from animals, but now it is spreading in the communities, and some cultural beliefs. You know, you mentioned about looting of a medical facility. Actually, I gather the story was that they were a bit upset that they were being told that, you know, you cannot wash dead bodies. For them, it is so fundamental to them that they must say goodbye to our dead people. And so because they were refused, they then decided they were taking them by force. So you'll hear places are saying that, you know, patients were taken out of hospital. And this is because people are realizing that, you know, we want our people. The other thing is that when hospitals fail, people have resorted to taking people to shrines and to churches.
And to try and treat them from the shrines.
Exactly. And that is causing another set of outbreaks, because all the traditional doctors, all their assistants, and all the pastors who are praying are coming down with it.
Wow.
So it's clearly a situation where I think what has helped Uganda in the past is that, one, it's happened in isolated parts of the country. And the people haven't been so mobile, because when we were in West Africa, these border towns, people are just in Guinea one day, Liberia the next day, then they go to other West African countries, and so they're so mobile. But we were fortunate, they were able to isolate it. So in Uganda, I think it took not more than 2 months for them to bring this thing under control.
Yeah.
So it involves identifying the cases, looking for all the people they've been in touch with, putting them in quarantine, One thing I must mention, why it took West Africa so long to diagnose it is the lack of labs to be able to diagnose it. We are fortunate, we have a lab in NTV. They can pick it up. So for us it took a very short time to pick up, but 116 days. Can you
That's
imagine?
a long time.
That's a long time for an illness to be out there.
That's close to what, 6 months?
They divide by 3, yeah?
About
6 months.
Wow. We're talking about Ebola. Has claimed more than 1,000 lives in West Africa. Still goes on. Trial drugs have been sent from the U.S. The U.S. has quarantined 2 of its doctors. It is an outbreak. What can we do? You know, you might be talking to someone who might have it, and that's where I'm going. How do you know that you have Ebola or someone has Ebola? I watched this feature on CNN where, of course, showing how it spread, and the case was in Uganda. A guy who went back home, talked to his wife and children, who went on, talked to other people, who went on and talked to other people, and then we had a case on our hands. So how do I know? What are the signs?
I think one of the challenges is that it presents like many other illnesses, tropical illnesses that we have. This one case you mentioned at the airport, the lady who eventually was found to have malaria. Those tend to be the typical symptoms: high-grade fevers, body pains, joint pains, nausea, vomiting, weakness. I mean, we could name 20 diseases that present like that. But for a long time, Ebola was characterized by bleeding, because eventually it affects the liver and the coagulation system, and so you start to bleed. And that's where the name hemorrhagic fever came from.
Okay.
So it is known that in the advanced stages, people start to bleed. But most people are infectious when the symptoms start. Before the symptoms start, yes, they'll be unwell, but until they start to have the virus in significant numbers in their body fluids, then they start to become infectious. So a big part of control involves being careful of all. With Ebola, it's all body fluids. And so sweat, tears, saliva, urine, stool, all body fluids are basically at risk. It's also been mentioned that one must also be careful against unprotected sexual contact, because when somebody recovers from Ebola, the virus has been found in their semen for up to 7 weeks after the infection. So it's one of those that one has to be able to diagnose it quickly. And it takes some pretty specialized diagnostic equipment to be able to pick it up. We're very fortunate here, we can do it quickly, but that's been, well, a big part of the challenges.
Well, wow, this is really, you know, and of course I was shocked that, for example, the US couldn't understand how this works when in Uganda we have had the centers here in Karere and in Mulago, and our guys are doing a fantastic job. So I gave it to the Minister of Health that, you know, we've done a phenomenal job. So you talked about bleeding. How long do I have to literally live? Because if I don't have medical attention, how fast can this thing move?
Well, you see, there are a lot of variables in there. But the incubation period is anything from 4 days to 2 weeks. That is from the time you get in contact with someone who has it, to when you develop symptoms. You basically have up to 2 weeks. What happens after that depends on a lot of other factors. What sort of condition were you in when you got the illness? If you were stronger, you were healthier, you will be more resilient.
You will have some more time?
Yes, you'll be more resilient. The other big factor is better. One of the challenges in West Africa, the medical people have just fled. They've just left because such was the health system. And so in a system whereby you have no one to help you, you are bound to succumb a lot quicker.
Dr. David Ndaula here with us this morning talk about Ebola and kind of impact it has had on us, not just even us as Ugandans, but also West Africa and the world. Your comments or suggestions on our Facebook page at This Morning at NTV. You can also tweet your question or comment to at morning at NTV. Send us a message to 6565 and we'll be able to catch it. But also visit our new website at ntv.co.ug and where you can go and click watch live. Any time of the day you can catch NTV. All right, let me just get a few comments from here because some people have sent in some tweets. Doctor, what is the Ministry of Health doing? Are we sending any doctors to Liberia to help out?
I believe that a couple of weeks ago there was a report whereby there were some technical experts who were sent to try and help. And obviously, when there is a health outbreak of this magnitude, we are not safe. You know, we may seem to be miles away from where it's happening, but we're actually not safe because people are traveling all the time, and that is how the illness is moving. So for us to go and try and deal with it where it is a wise thing to do. So they've sent technical experts. I believe after one of our medical doctors succumbed to the illness, it's naturally many people are going to be very careful about jumping in headlong. But you see, this whole thing needs coordination, and I'm glad that the WHO has come up and is taking the lead, but in each individual country, because the health situation in a country is very different. Uganda may be very different from what's a lot of, for example, Sierra Leone. And so you need local people as well to come in and take the lead as well.
Does it have also other forms, you know, like with diabetes? Could someone argue that maybe the one Uganda got was a lot, you know, was less serious? How can this thing take more than 1,000 in just a short time?
Well, you know, I think that there are 5 main strains of Ebola. All the names are after where it was first found. So there's Ebola proper, then there's the Sudan strain, there's the Bundibujo strain, there's the Thai fever strain. Thai fever is in Ivory Coast. And then there's a strain that came from the Philippines to the US, whose name I forget. But there are 5 strains. I haven't come across what this particular strain is. But I think that the biggest challenge is that it came in a group of countries that were absolutely not ready for it.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, when somebody breaks into your house and you don't even have burglar proofing in your house, you're a sitting duck.
Yeah.
And so it came into a system that wasn't ready, a system that was struggling. And whereas in Uganda, I think what has helped is we have a system down to the communities.
Yeah.
So people can tell you, this one stays with X, Y, and Z. Oh, this is his home. These are his relatives. You can identify that. But one of the countries that's most affected right now is Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone just came through war, okay? So that has probably destroyed a lot of the infrastructure in that country. So it's very difficult to have a health system in the midst of a country that's recovering from war.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, some quick messages here on Facebook. Gilbert Frank Daniels, this sounds too political. There are allegations that this is a laboratory-made disease to control populations. Is this true?
Well, like you said, it's an allegation. There are always conspiracy theorists out there. But the truth is that the hosts have been identified, but there are things about an illness we may not understand. But let me say this, that as human beings start to encroach on areas where they were not usually going. For example, just think about deforestation, think about the fact that we are now going into forests more and more to get out the natural resources.
Yeah.
We're coming across things we'd never used to come across.
Yeah.
And so people are going to pick up illnesses, and the animals are having to spread and move to places they were not in before. Now, a virus may be controlled within an animal population because there's now a relationship between the animal and the virus.
Yeah.
Then when it gets to you, who's never come across it, then there's problems bound to happen.
To be viral. Well, that's a beautiful way to put it. And I guess Ministry of Health, and I want to thank you again. Thank you for the phenomenal job you've done in the past as far as Ebola is concerned. Seeing what is happening in West Africa, we must give it to you. Thank you again. And Dr. David will definitely be back to talk more stuff about health and making sure that you live a quality life. And that's what we are here, what we do here every Wednesday morning. It's called our Healthy Wednesday segment on Everyday Life. Let's talk sport when we come back. What happened to Arsenal last night? And of course, is Di Maria finally moving to Man United? Stay with us.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji and Brian Molondo.
Hello, is this Munji?
Yo, this is Munji.
I am feeling your new Virgin Jam right now. It is up the hook.
Thanks, man. I'm also feeling you. Seducer.
Make a call for whatever reason. Call someone, call anyone, and change your life. Make a call and you could win 100 million shillings, a car, or a smartphone with free data for a year. Plus, win 2 free minutes every day. Airtel. Together we can.
Stand up to be counted. Brought to you by UBOS. It's your right.
Census is here. Be counted. The information you give is confidential and is only used for planning, policy making, and equitable resource allocation. This leads to improved service delivery to you and your community. So, get ready to be counted. Starting from 28th August to 6th September 2014. Together we count.
Stand up to be counted. Brought to you by UBOS. It's your right.
I'm going to blow your mind and I'm going to twist your taste buds. The flavors are already coming together. I can feel them. Very lovely, very appetizing, very healthy. Remember, the way you see it, the way you like it, is the way you get it from my kitchen to your kitchen.
Ekifo ekimu kissa wamusu n'ekyalo ekiweddeko abamanye bakinaza mumwa. Tugenda kutuuka gy'oli oyogere naffe ebikwata ku kyalo kyo, embeera mw'okolera, ebyobufuzi, ebyobulamu n'ensonga endala nnyingi. Ebyogerwa tebiyita. Tuusa eddoboozi lyo, yogera naffe buli lwakuna otereevu ku NTV akawungeezi.
Coming soon on NTV.
Dang, I suck at women. Because you can still think about her, but she's gone.
You should always approach a girl when she's surrounded by guys.
Attractive women are the most insecure. That's why they spend more time in the mirror than other women.
A needy people pleaser, desperate, forgettable, replaceable, boring guy.
And how to deal with the obstacle, her friend.
One thing I want is money.
Imagine.
I mean, how dare you come to me, all dirty and shabby, looking like a war truck from Afghanistan.
I've been given a challenge to go up to those streets, get enough numbers of very hot girls.
Excuse me, so what do you do apart from looking good?
0702. 0702.
Coming soon on NTV. On the next episode, brought to you by...
At Orange, we know you want to do more on the internet. That's why we bring you happy hour day and night.
So you can find yourself, you bastard. Alcino!
Go. Right. Go. Come on. Yeah. Go. Yeah. Ah.
You can download movies at the lowest prices and never fast from Orange. Dial *133# to buy a data bundle. Happy hour changes with Orange. Today changes with Orange.
On to 9, and we're talking this sport this morning. But before we go there, guys, imagine that the reason, culture and tradition getting in the way of, disease control. So people want to wash their dead bodies.
I remember when Uganda had that Ebola outbreak, one of the stories that really caught my attention, Brian, is the one that you talk about now, where people love to come close to the body. When you're mourning, the more we mourn.
And you see the head, and
we want to get very close and touch and say, "Abadde mwana mulungi," as we cry, and that is it's extremely disheartening. And it takes a lot of education, I think, from the medical staff across the world, just to tell people that in certain situations you can't even get as close. That people are, in most cases, these people are buried in hospital cemeteries, and in polythene and not the usual coffin, that kind of thing. It's a tough thing to explain by that to anyone, and you could understand for those who have lost their loved ones that it's hard to take. Because it's I'm always told that one of the biggest ceremonies in the world where people attend is your funeral. There are not as many people. Yeah, you look back, people will attend your wedding.
More people attend your funeral than your wedding.
Probably.
Sad, but true.
Yeah.
You look at churches.
Well, because funerals are not for invitation.
Even church ceremonies. You don't need to be invited to go to someone's wedding to church. I attended your wedding. You didn't invite me. I was there in church.
I didn't know you then.
but with this whole thing of fighting Ebola, I know it's extremely hard. Because then just telling people not to go to the places they used to go, maybe the cinema or a football match or a volleyball game, all those kind of things are banned, and it's hard to take for anyone. And until you've lost someone, that's when you realize that.
I think the West Africans, for them, it's worse. I think either it's ignorance or you're saying people don't go to cinema. Do you remember the time after the bomb attacks? How Kampala was like, people go home after work.
Yeah. Well, let's pray that these trial drugs, first of all, will work, and finally someone will get a cure. But of course, great information this morning. Started in 1976. They had never known that, Dr. David Daula, who is the medical director at Family Clinic Zambia, was here sharing this. You can go to YouTube, download the show, and catch more of that, or follow our tweets and Facebook updates on Morning at NTV. Now, let's talk sports. Sekafa, what lessons will KCCA have learned ahead of their quarterfinal today?
There will be lots of them, and one of those, the biggest of them, has got to be not to undermine at Labara. In the group stage, when KCC got through, they beat up on the bigger sides, Goma here and APR. APR already through to the semi-finals, won their game in a penalty shootout yesterday against Ryan Sport. But the one that, the punch that knocked out KCCA in the group stages to Djibouti Telecom is one they didn't see coming. It was a hook shot they didn't see coming, and they lost that game by 2-1. So for me, that's the first lesson they would have learned. Two is that watching yesterday's quarterfinals, the one that had Police beat up on Atletico. Police is from Rwanda, beat Atletico in a penalty shootout to go through, and then the later game between APR and Ryan Sport, which APR won, is that cases will also know that they should be prepared for a very, very long game. All those games lasted the entire 90 minutes and went to a penalty shootout for Police and APR to get through. So cases should be prepared for that too, that if a game goes long, then they should be able to deal with it physically. Also, I think George Nsimbe will also have known that probably his best defender is Ronnie Chiseka. When he got sent off in one of their games against Djibouti, they really struggled to cope without him at the back. And also, I think they've got to also play very well from the wings. Saka and Pima and Habib Kavma, the two full-backs, so Simon Namwanja, if he's chosen at left back, the two wing-backs have got to have learned their lessons. One of the things I saw from At Labara, they love to go wide quite a bit. And also, you'd also know that they have a Ugandan on their bench, Leo Adra, and that's a big, big bonus. Wouldn't be surprised about whatever Uganda would do or cases would do. Probably he was already coaching when George Nsimbe was still a player. Yeah. He's been coaching in the game. I remember I first heard of him when I was barely in my lower primary school, and I was coaching the team called Skoll in the days when Daily Monitor was a once a week, twice a week newspaper. These days it's a daily, and those are the first days I heard of Leo Adra. So he's been in the game much longer than George. So in terms of experience and the surprise element, it's got to be there. And you've got to give the South Sudanese a lot of credit. They only admitted into FIFA and Sekafa about 2-3 years ago. And here they have a team in the Sekafa quarterfinals. So KCC cannot just walk onto the pitch and think they're going to get the result without working for it. They've got to earn the result. Yeah. They've got to earn the result. When you get to the quarterfinal stages or the knockout stage of any tournament, the easy games are done after the group stages.
Well, in volleyball, there's a feud about the jerseys. Now, Ismail, will that lead to some teams being expelled?
I saw some extreme newspaper headlines over the past 2 days that Ndeje Elites for the women and Nemo Stars, which is one of the most discussed volleyball clubs in this country, could be expelled from the league. The reason being financial. Here is the whole crowd of where this whole thing starts. Uganda Volleyball Federation go on and sign a sponsor for the league, something they haven't done consistently in recent years, and that sponsor is NSSF. And one of the agreements I think they signed with NSSF is to provide all the teams in the league with 2 jerseys, and they've already provided 1. And after the second jersey is delivered in the weeks to come, all teams are required to wear those jerseys. Now, Nemo Stars and Ndeje are leading a fight that says that in our agreement to play in the league, which we qualify for, there is no rule that says we should wear a jersey from a sponsor of the entire league, because that sponsor is not our sponsor as a club. And this is something that is totally new to volleyball, first of all, because I think over the years, volleyball has been mainly voluntary. Most of the people who play have been there as volunteers. So there has never been anything to benefit, either in terms of jerseys, or if someone gave them a jersey like about, let me say 8 to 10 years ago, they would gladly wear it because they wouldn't have one. Now, because all the teams have developed to a certain level, they feel that if they're going to wear any kind of branding as they walk on the court, they should earn from it. And that is totally different.
Which is good.
Which is a good
makes
thing.
sense, you know, business-wise, but...
Yeah, but it would be, for me, extremely extreme, Mebo and Brian, if it went to a level of expulsion. To the extent that Andrew Muduse Ojala, who is, they call him the grandfather of volleyball in this country, is the one who started Uganda Volleyball Federation. He's the one who started Kampala Amateur Volleyball Club, which has mutated into so many clubs, including Nemo Stars, where he is right now. Wrote a very strongly worded letter to the Uganda Volleyball Federation threatening that it may not even need UVF to expel Nemo. They'll pull out gladly. And
that's
that would
totally
be
uncalled for.
Probably, and sometimes some administrators have got to be extreme at some point. But I think I understand where Nemo Stars are coming from, and there's got to be an amicable solution. There could be an amicable solution between the two. I think this exchange between UVF say you'll wear it whether you like it or not, then Nemo Stars saying we'll pull out of the league if you don't wear it. That's the kind of language that shows up in Gaza.
What does, say, the Premier League do? We all know Barclays sponsors the Premier League.
Yeah.
It's called the Barclays Premier League.
Yeah.
But Emirates sponsors my, you know, so how do they do it?
I think the clubs at that level have appreciated that the commercialization of the game does not, while it's holistic, it has so many facets. That while Barclays sponsor the league, Liverpool were Standard Chartered, who are rivals to Barclays.
Exactly.
Yes.
And there is no problem with that. But I know in our kind of setting, I've seen when, even in the football, Uganda Super League, all the leagues before, when Nile Special sank a lot of money into Ugandan football, about in the late 90s and early 2000s, they wouldn't let any other rival company come into the league at the time. So you had to wear the NSSL jersey at the time. So I think we're still several steps behind. But I've always appreciated one thing. I always laugh when I see, for example, Man City playing at the Emirates. They are there Etihad and they are playing at the Emirates Stadium. These are rival companies, and I think we've got to develop to that level. And I think it takes a bit of time, because what we are talking about is things that have already happened in certain parts because of the development. The development of their sport is way ahead of us. But then, while we appreciate them, we've got to start somewhere. Now you have a sponsor as volleyball. NSF, who looks committed to the game. Not only the league, but also sponsored the Kampala Amateur Volleyball Club tournament not too long ago. So how do you grow with that sponsor? That's very, very important.
No,
and
unless there's another, I think for me, for example, you have NTV and Coca-Cola. Unless there's another NTV that sponsors you, that should be a reason. But is there another person offering retirement benefits? No. So you put the NSSF logo here and put your sponsor here, and we move on and enjoy the game.
Exactly. That's I wish it was easy that you put league here.
They just want it here.
For example, Barclays for the Premier League.
It's on the
right here. And then
actually,
after that,
the sponsor of the Jazette.
Standard Chartered.
After that, you
choose.
After that, you choose Mike Ezra, and where Mike Ezra right here.
That would be a nice sponsor, though. Yeah. But well, I'm sure Nemo Stars is watching this show, and we need your comment on this. I don't know if you're in a place right now to comment, but please let us know on Twitter right now. Nadal won't defend his U.S. Open crown. What does this mean for him and the event in general?
I've got to say, last year, I chose Rafael Nadal as, for me, the best sportsman in the world after I came back from that 7-month injury and just went on and beat up on everyone, including win the US Open, which I would never have given him a chance to at any point in time. Now, the injuries seem to have not eased, because previously it used to be his knees. Now, he has a wrist problem. I'll not be going to flashy meadows as the seedings were released yesterday. I think it's extremely unfortunate that Nadal won't be there because he's a crowd puller. He has a lot of attention that comes with him. When you have 14 Grand Slam titles, you deserve that kind of attention. And only Roger Federer is ahead of you on 18, on 17. So you've got to say, I've got to say that without Rafael Nadal, something is missing from the US Open. But for those who will be going there, I think the man to beat, Nadal wouldn't have been the one. It's going to be Novak Djokovic. In the aftermath of a very slow start to the year, you remember he lost, he didn't do well in Australia, where Stanislas Wawrinka beat up on Nadal in the final. In the French Open, it was one-way traffic because Nadal cruised to a 10th French Open title in 11 years. And then thereafter, Djokovic came back into his element by winning Wimbledon. But I've got to say that going into the tournament, one of the things I've seen is that it's going to be about who copes with the injuries. It's been a year where there's been a story about someone injured than someone who's playing well. Currently, Andy Murray, who is a winner here before, goes to the US Open on the back of a back problem. I remember he was in the semi-finals in Australia, he was in the semi-finals in France, and also reached the quarters at Wimbledon. But it's mainly because his body physically is not coping with the competition. Now, the exit of Nadal shows you the amount of pressure that every player is under. And I've got to say that whoever goes in there in better physical shape, and that could be probably Roger Federer, because the kind of game he plays does not demand so much of his physical attributes as it demands of his mental skill, his mental attributes and the skill. I've got to say that while it could be an open tournament without Nadal, it's Djokovic, and whoever else beats Djokovic, you have a chance of winning.
Okay.
We'll wait and see. Of course, for me, I'm for Nadal.
You're for Nadal, and he's not playing. Go for Murray. No. Leave Murray for Mabel.
He's British.
Scottish.
So
I remember,
that's Mabel's default.
There's that story 2 years ago. The Scots have their own deputy prime minister who is an assistant to David Cameron. And when he won Wimbledon, the deputy prime minister of Scotland, who is actually for secession, Scotland want to break away from the UK and move away from the Queen. He was seated right behind David Cameron and stands up with the Scottish flag. The first person to go and criticize the Scottish Deputy Prime Minister was Andy Murray. He said, I've been representing the United Kingdom since I was 8, and I'll continue to represent the UK. But there's a referendum coming up in November. We don't know whether after that, now Murray will choose to be Scot or to be British.
Yeah, well, he really. But it's the same thing, really. Why are they?
Just pride. Just as Joel usually talks about being a Muruli, and you're like, Muruli, Muganda, what's the difference? Anyway, yesterday a goalless draw for Arsenal, a red card. This Turkish club, some of us have not really heard about. Really, should Arsenal be pleased?
was there. Okay, was.
Yeah, but...
I think Arsenal should be very pleased with the result. Especially,
a draw? You had not predicted a draw.
Yeah, because Arsenal is make an easy task of all these games. Actually, it's the first time they failed to win a qualifier away from home, I think, in 8 years. That's how good Arsenal are in this third qualifying round. If there was a trophy to be handed out after this round,
Arsenal
would win the trophy.
It would be the only silverware we take.
They would be the trophy. But since there is no trophy to win at this point in time, I think
but you have to win your games.
Yeah, they've got to be pleased with the result because they have a return leg to come next week at the Emirates. And I thought for large parts of the first half, Arsenal should have been at least a goal down. They could have been 2-0 down because there was a lot of trouble that Dembaba was causing, the guy who joined them from Chelsea. When they hacked in the long balls and he was playing against 16-year-old Callum Chambers, whose physical attributes are a bit like Julius, our cameraman here. And then you against a 6-foot, a 6-foot Dembaba, and I'm thinking Callum Chambers stood no chance at that point in time. But they should be pleased with the result. And I thought for a moment that because Besiktas had wasted so many of their chances, Arsenal would punish them because that's what good teams do. And actually, Alexis Sanchez in the second half probably should have scored. And so Santi Cazorla had a very good chance from a free kick that the goalkeeper saved. But I think when you look at a two-legged affair, many teams would take a 0-0. And how many teams could even come to the Emirates and win? Besiktas could be one of them. Yeah. I don't think so. Arsenal won't have Rams in that game. Neither will Kieran Gibbs because he's still out injured, missed last night's game. But even with all the absentees from there, you hope that in the next 1 week or so, Mesut Ozil will be playing, Lucas Podolski will be back into the side, Pape Saka will be playing. So probably Arsenal will even be stronger for the return leg without Aaron Ramsey than when he was there. So I've got to say that while it wasn't the result Arsenal probably wanted, it's a result they will take.
You know, for me, I think I'll take it because we didn't concede a goal.
Yeah.
You know.
And every team that travels away from home, you don't want to concede.
Yeah.
You don't concede, you don't score. It's 0-0. Advantage Arsenal.
He's definitely bringing in the value of the money, James Rodriguez, and I'm sure you're very excited. He scored last night, but it was, you know, a 1-1 match. It seems like it's anybody's game.
Yeah, I see that. It seems like it's anybody's game because Real Madrid and Atletico played on 5 occasions last season. And on many occasions, there wasn't much of a difference between the two sides, except in the Kings Cup last year, when Real Madrid won both ties by an aggregate of 5-0. They lost in the league and drew the other, then they won the Champions League final. So I thought yesterday, for all the changes that have been at Madrid, there wasn't much of a difference, and they looked disjointed for quite some time. And actually, they also had a problem to deal with in Cristiano Ronaldo because he went off injured. Luckily, they're saying it won't be for too long. They said it was precautionary because he was feeling a bit of pain in his back. So they think he'll be back playing. But when you sign players like Rodriguez, you want them to score in the games like these ones. And he did score a goal in the 80th minute. It wasn't enough for Real Madrid to win the game. They have a return leg to come. Unlike England, where the Community Shield is only one tie at Wembley. In Spain, their Community Shield, which is the Spanish Super Cup or the Super Copa, is a two-legged affair. Madrid had the first leg last night at the Bernabeu. Now they go to the Vicente Calderon on Friday. And I've got to say, I love what Atletico Madrid did yesterday. They still remain the same team, a pill of organization. They are still the same team from last year. Having lost Diego Costa, Thibaut Courtois, Luis Philippe, and all these other guys, they still look like they play the same way because the philosophy of Diego Simeone hasn't changed a bit. They have numbers behind the ball, they are lethal on the counter, deadly from set pieces, and that's why they got their goal from Raul Garcia. They will be pleased with the result, but you've got to say, even if Atletico have the second leg at home, it's advantage Real Madrid.
The away goals rule still works.
Yeah, away goals rule works.
Doesn't it work in all cases?
And there are cases where it doesn't work. The FA Cup. The FA Cup, there's no away goals rule. In the Capital One Cup in England, until the semi-final, this is very interesting, the away goals rule only works after extra time.
The English, quite special.
Well, talking about England, Manchester United made the third signing this summer. Where will Rojo
fit into the side. And this is going to be quite a tongue twister for all of us who do all these programs, because the guy's name is Marcos Rojo.
Rojo, not Rojo.
Even if it's J.
Rojo.
The same
Rojo,
way,
it's an H.
The same way James is.
Yeah, the same way James. It's a J that is pronounced as an H, and it's going to be quite a tongue twister.
It's not James.
And while I was coming here, I was
Rojo.
listening to radio, and everyone was announcing this transfer as Rojo, and I said, okay. Probably.
Yeah, that's one thing you should do. You do something about. Like, you listen to radio, it's horrendous. The
Even for simple names
who
like
can't-
wine.
Yeah, Wayne. I think you should start a course. Someone was calling Karaga Karanja, and I'm like,
no, those are some of the easier ones.
Karanja.
Those are some of the easier ones, because names like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer,
Yeah, that was tough.
Or
probably many people.
How do you pronounce that one that you've just said in the proper way?
Which one?
The one you've just said. That's
Solskjaer.
Solskjaer. How do you spell? That's the one with an A and an E, and one of the letters is
J-A-E-R.
And a K in there.
Yes.
But probably the biggest of them these days that I hear when I'm watching Borussia Dortmund games, they have a defender from Greece called Socrates Papastathopoulos. And luckily, his first name is easy to pronounce.
I think Isma has his time to pronounce these names, and he just springs them on us. You give me 5 days.
No, what I think the mistake everyone does is to read the name. But I think as we learn names like Kebirungi or like Murondo, you listen to someone say it,
and then
you replay that. You don't try to read the name.
You know,
never try to read the name. You'll never get the pronunciation.
I speak German, and I cringe every time I hear someone say a German name, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
You're thinking, okay.
Just say the first name. It's usually easier.
Okay, let's go to Marcos Rojo.
Yes.
We've heard a lot about the name. Okay. They're bringing a player from Sporting Lisbon for 16 million. You remember last week he refused to train, and actually was blocked from the training ground by the team as they opted to try and discipline him for that. Eventually he's got his wish and is joining United. I've got to say that for me it's two things. One, it confirms that Luke Shaw was never Louis van Gaal's signing, because it's a player who plays in a similar position at left back. Though Luke Shaw came in for about £31 million. That's one way to look at it. Two, is that I'm waiting to see where Marcos Rojo is going to slot in. On one hand, we saw him play for Argentina at the World Cup as a left back. Now, at Sporting Lisbon, he's always used as a makeshift defender, central defender. Now, if Van Gaal is going in with this 3-5-2, you're thinking Marcos Rojo has got to be one of the three centre-backs. In another situation, probably he'll be the wing-back, but I'd rather have Luke Shaw as a wing-back because he has a lot more pace, a lot more energy than Rojo. Rojo probably would love to play the ball at his feet a bit more. So they're starting to make a bit of signings because they've only signed 2 players already. That is Underhill and Luke Shaw. And probably the biggest question I've answered this summer, normally it used to be Arsene Retani. The biggest question I've answered is Manie Retani. And that is a total shift from all the years I've been in doing this job. And it tells you a bit about when a team hasn't done well, the desperation of the fans and the promise from the chief executive, Ed Woodward, about signing players, and those players are never seen. There's all this talk that they're going to sign this one, and then they've not signed anyone. They've only signed 2 players, and that's been part of it. But on the other hand, also United gave away Nani, a player who came to Manchester United and spent all his time at United trying to be Ronaldo.
Yeah.
Little did he know that there was only one Cristiano Ronaldo. So now he goes back to Sporting Lisbon, where he started his football game, to try and build again and get back into bigger leagues. I've got to say that for every United one who watched Nani in the few games, I remember some against Tottenham, against Liverpool, when he played well. He had the skill, probably didn't have the mental strength to last at the big stage. Now he goes back home, and probably that would be good for him, and probably even better for United, because there's one thing about having numbers, but the numbers are not quality. It's about Liverpool have been through this thing where they buy so many players, and most of them are not relevant when you're in a situation where you need to make changes. Now United are probably doing it much smarter. Louis van Gaal knows that I need about 18 or 21 players, and those will do. So after that, you can start to cull the squad and have enough players that will do the job. The same way I've seen Mauricio Pochettino at Tottenham. He said he has way too many players. He wants to trim them to 21 because he thinks all these players are a bit deceptive. You have numbers, but you have no quality. So get rid of the guys without the quality. Have a squad and know that when I need to take off Brand and bring on Mebo, I'm just doing something like for like.
Quality and not quantity. Well, that's important. Well, you can wait for Isma to talk more sport at 1:30 p.m. with Lumansi and Alan, and also be explaining here Man United fans now want Wood out, not in,
not
because he's not buying the players, he's stalling deals. Maybe he does not know how to negotiate this. Well, you can get more of that, and of course, Sports Bar Monday, 10 p.m. from Club Silk. Of course, proverbs are an integral part of African culture, passed on from one generation to another. Check out what was passed on this morning. Milk and honey have different colors, but they share the same house peacefully.
Sure.
Co-wives?
No, that's not for co-wives. That's for men and women. You can't have co-wives live in peace. But
why not? The Muslims, you guys do it.
They do, but there's something about women. I don't want to go into that. I'll offend so many people, including my sisters who are so many, who I love so much. But of course, I hope the proverb was from Bugisu. And milk and honey don't sound like a Chigiso proverb, because I'm as excited as Nandutu was on the news about Imbalu season.
Did you see her dance with the shoulder?
I grew up in Mbale for part of my life, and I started at Fairway Primary School. We used to have an Indian headmaster called D'Souza. And one of the most exciting seasons about these 3 months is that you spend part of your day chasing wherever you hear the sound of Kadodi. And it's a very tough time for the parents to keep your children coming home, because they are all running to chase the dancers. So probably, parents, you should be milk and honey with your children at this point in time as they go after the prospective men who are moving from being boys to being men through just that ritual.
Oh, that Kadodi thing. Well,
I love this
Nandutu
sound.
is...
But let me ask, how is it going to attract tourists? As in people, you're allowed to see?
Yeah.
So I can go and see?
Yeah.
How much will I see?
Hello. And since you're a Muzungu, you'll have a special permit. Like as if you're watching gorillas.
You know, Brian, I love Mabel's question. How much will I see? Because there are so many events across the world. You know, the Brazilian Carnival, there is a bullfighting event in Mallorca. There is one in Kenya that I saw where bulls also fight and they actually get killed. And tourists come in plenty. So probably that's one of the things.
In the UK, people are paying £60,000 to hunt a lion, then take a photo with it. So this may be an opportunity to, you know...
I've got to say that the sound of Kadodi, the sound of Kadodi has been misused by the politicians quite a bit. I don't know of an election where an MP does not have Kadodi being hit as they go through. And I remember it was one of the things that got Mohamed Iserekos elected for Kampala Central.
But it's quite a funky beat. It's really funky. Yeah. Well, the Imbalu is upon us, and if they'll probably introduce an Imbalu permit. Like you pay $500 to go and gorilla trek, so we shall go and Imbalu trek probably. But Agnes Nadutu has been updating us. I'm sure she'll have more when she returns. Go to our Facebook page, Morning at NTV, and tweet us at Morning at NTV. Our new website, www.ntv.co.ug. It's live. You can go and watch live every show on the station. Of course, burn it up. 10 million shillings for whoever loses it. You're paid to lose weight. And Mwasu Zemtia coming very soon. Until tomorrow, have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Molondo.
NTV, turning on your world.
Use White Star Laundry Bar Soap with a lemon fragrance and you'll have a fresh, clean day. Be like a star. Use White Star.
Don't
White Star Laundry Bar Soap. All day fresh clean.
Hey, hello, Muna. Okobachi. Go, yesterday's Rolex was for World Cup. But I was here wondering, what do you think came first? The egg or the chicken? Because me, I think the chicken came first and...
Make a call for whatever reason. Call someone, call anyone, and change your life. Make a call and you could win 100 million shillings, a car, or a smartphone with free data for a year. Plus, win 2 free minutes every day.
Airtel. Together we can.
We could do this all night.
Guess what show just won Best Entertainment Program?
Log in for the glitz and glamour of Kampala's most flamboyant people and events.
I'm here today for Coco Fingers video shoot.
Big up NTV. Thanks for the support. Log in. Ndiwa no le ronzi ze kukakasa.
You're Golfy and you're watching Login.
Don't touch that dial, you know what I'm saying. It's Login.
We could do this all night. We could do this all night.
On the next episode, brought to you by...
At Orange, we know you want to do more on the internet. That's why we bring you happy hour day and night.
On the next episode of...
Destiny River.
And you're so caring now just because he's a human being? Or is it because he's Manuela's father?
It's not your fault at all.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. He got sick after he argued with me and Fred.
But what's it about? Something serious?
If you consider tampering with an airplane serious, then we're dealing with something very serious,
Chief,
yes.
Solano has nothing to do with that.
That's what you say.
Destiny River.
You can download movies at the lowest prices another fast from Orange. Dial *133# to buy a data bundle. Happy hour changes with Orange. Today changes with Orange.
Chocolate bikadde byerabire